June 10th, 1720. Exchange Alley, London. The narrow street between Cornhill and Lombard Street is packed with bodies. Merchants, aristocrats, servants, clergy, women in silk dresses, men in powdered wigs, all shouting, all pushing, all desperate to do one thing: buy South Sea Company stock. A coachman who invested his life savings in January is now worth more than his master. A maid who bought one share in March can now afford to quit her job. A vicar who put his church's money into South Sea stock has tripled the parish fund. Everyone who bought is rich, and everyone who didn't is desperate to get in before it's too late. Inside Jonathan's coffee house, the unofficial trading floor of Exchange Alley, men are standing on tables, waving share certificates in the air, screaming bids. One man, Sir John Blunt, the architect of the South Sea Company scheme, watches from the corner. He's holding a glass of wine. He's smiling. He knows something nobody else in that room knows. The company is worthless. The South Sea Company has no ships, no trade routes, no profit, no revenue, nothing. But its stock is worth more than the entire gold reserve of the Bank of England, and in exactly 3 months, on September 13th, 1720, it will all collapse. The stock will lose 84% of its value in 8 weeks. Families will be ruined. Fortunes built over generations will vanish overnight. Members of Parliament will be arrested. The British government will nearly collapse. The question everyone will ask for the next 300 years is simple. How did the most powerful nation on earth fall for a company that owned nothing? To understand what happened in 1720, you need to understand Britain's problem in 1719, debt. Britain had just finished 2 wars. The War of Spanish Succession, 1701 to 1714, and the Great Northern War. Wars are expensive, and Britain had paid for them by borrowing money. By 1719, Britain's national debt stood at $51 million. That's roughly $9 billion in today's money, an enormous sum. The government owed this money to thousands of creditors, merchants, banks, nobles, who had lent money to the crown during the wars, and every year the government had to pay interest on that debt. The interest payments alone were crippling the treasury. Parliament needed a solution. They needed someone to take over the debt, to manage it, to refinance it. Enter the South Sea Company. The South Sea Company was founded in 1711 by Robert Harley, Lord High Treasurer of Britain, and a financier named John Blunt. The official purpose? Trade with South America. The company was granted a monopoly on all British trade with South America and the Pacific Islands, the South Seas. In exchange, the company would take over a portion of Britain's national debt. Here's how it worked. British citizens who held government debt, bonds paying 6% interest, could exchange those bonds for South Sea Company stock. The South Sea Company would then collect the interest payments from the government. And in theory, the company would also make massive profits from trade with South America. Everyone wins. The government reduces its debt burden. Creditors get stock in a trading company with huge potential. The South Sea Company gets government backing and a trade monopoly. There was just one problem. The South Sea Company never actually traded anything. The South Sea Company's monopoly on trade with South America sounded incredible on paper. South America in 1711 was controlled by Spain. The Spanish Empire was rich in gold, silver, sugar, tobacco, exotic goods that Europe craved. But here's the catch. Britain and Spain had been at war for 13 years. And even after the war ended in 1714 with the Treaty of Utrecht, Spain barely allowed British ships into South American ports. The treaty gave Britain the right to send 1 ship per year to trade in South America. 1 ship. And even that ship faced restrictions. Spanish officials inspected every cargo, imposed tariffs, limited trade. Between 1717 and 1720, the South Sea Company sent a handful of ships. Most returned with minimal profit. Some lost money. By 1719, the South Sea Company had barely made any profit from trade. But nobody seemed to care, because something else was happening. February 2nd, 1720. The House of Commons votes on the South Sea Company proposal. The vote passes easily. But here's what most people don't know. The vote was rigged. John Blunt and the South Sea Company directors spent the previous month bribing members of Parliament. How? By giving them stock. Before the vote, South Sea Company directors offered MPs special opportunities to buy South Sea stock at discounted prices, stock that was guaranteed to rise once the deal passed. Some MPs received stock for free. Others were given loans, interest-free loans, to buy more stock. The Chancellor of the Exchequer, John Aislabie, received $794,000 in stock. The Postmaster General received $20,000 in stock. Even King George III's mistresses, the Duchess of Kendal and the Countess of Darlington, were given stock. The king himself held stock in the South Sea Company. This wasn't investment, this was systemic corruption. And it worked. Parliament approved the deal. The South Sea Company was now responsible for managing Britain's entire national debt. All that was left was to sell the scheme to the public. April 1720. The frenzy reaches a fever pitch. South Sea Company stock is now the most talked about thing in Britain. Coffee houses, taverns, church courtyards, private salons. Everywhere, people are discussing the stock. Aristocrats are selling estates to buy shares. Merchants are liquidating inventory. Widows are investing their late husband's savings. But here's where it gets insane. Seeing the success of the South Sea Company, dozens of new companies spring up overnight. They issue stock to the public, promising incredible returns. Some of these companies have legitimate business plans. Most don't. One company promises to drain the Red Sea to recover gold and jewels lost when the Egyptian army drowned pursuing Moses. Another company promises to build a perpetual motion machine that will generate infinite energy. One company's entire prospectus reads, "For carrying on an undertaking of great advantage, but nobody knows what it is." And people invest. That last company, the one that literally refuses to say what it does, raises $2,000 in 6 hours. The founder takes the money and flees to Europe. These companies became known as bubble companies, and they all follow the same pattern as the South Sea Company. Promise massive profits, sell stock. Drive the price up, sell at the peak, disappear. By June, Parliament realizes the bubble companies are getting out of control. They're distracting investors from the South Sea Company, and some of them are obvious frauds. On June 9th, 1720, Parliament passes the Bubble Act. The law makes it illegal for any company to issue stock without a royal charter. Existing bubble companies are ordered to shut down. The intention: protect investors from fraud. The actual effect? It concentrates all investment into the South Sea Company. With the bubble companies gone, there's only one place left to put your money: South Sea stock, and the price explodes. June 1st, $750 per share. June 10th, $1,050 per share. This is the peak. So who were the people buying South Sea stock in June 1720? Everyone. The wealthy elite, dukes, earls, members of parliament. They saw South Sea stock as a safe government-backed investment. The middle class, merchants, shopkeepers, craftsmen, they saw it as their chance to become wealthy. Servants and workers, coachmen, maids, laborers, they pooled their savings, sometimes their entire life savings, to buy even a fraction of a share. Women, widows, heiresses, unmarried women with inheritances. In 1720, women couldn't vote or own property in their own name in many cases, but they could own stock. One famous investor was Sir Isaac Newton, the greatest scientist of the age. Newton bought South Sea stock early in 1720. He made a profit and sold in April. Then he watched the price keep rising and rising and rising. In June, unable to resist, Newton bought back in at $800 per share. He would later lose $20,000, equivalent to roughly $3 million today. Newton later said, "I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people." June 1720. While ordinary investors are frantically buying, the South Sea Company directors are quietly selling. John Blunt sells shares worth $180,000. Other directors sell millions in stock. They know the company has no real value. They know the price is unsustainable. But they keep up appearances. In public, they praise the company. They encourage people to buy. In private, they're cashing out. This is the classic insider scam. Pump the price. Sell at the top. Let everyone else hold the worthless shares. And it's about to collapse. Late June 1720. The stock hits $1,050 and then stops rising. For the first time in months, the price plateaus. Why? Because there are no new buyers. Everyone who could afford to buy has already bought. Servants have invested their wages. Merchants have mortgaged their shops. Nobles have sold their estates. There's no more money left to pour in. And when a bubble runs out of new buyers, there's only one direction it can go. August 1720. Rumors begin to spread. The company hasn't actually signed any new trade deals with Spain. The directors are selling their own shares. The company has no ships. Smart investors start asking questions. They request to see the company's financial records. The South Sea Company refuses. August 18th, the stock price drops to $900. August 25th, $800. Investors who bought at $1,050 are starting to panic, but most still believe. They tell themselves it's just a temporary dip. The price will recover. It won't. The stock is at $775, still high. But the momentum has shifted. People who need cash start selling. And once selling starts, it feeds on itself. One person sells. The price drops. Another person panics and sells. The price drops further. More panic. More selling. This is the start of the collapse. And in 12 days, the South Sea Company, the company that was worth more than the Bank of England, will be worth almost nothing. The same street that was packed with buyers in June is now filled with sellers. Everyone is trying to get out at the same time. The problem with bubbles isn't the rise, it's the exit. When everyone believes the price will keep rising, they all want to buy. But the moment doubt creeps in, the moment people realize there are no greater fools left to sell to, the psychology reverses instantly. Now everyone wants to sell. and there are no buyers. September 2nd, $750 per share. September 8th, $640. September 11th, $540. September 13th, $380. In 11 days, the stock has lost 64% of its value. The scenes in Exchange Alley are chaotic. Men are shouting, some are crying, others are fighting, physically fighting, over who sold to whom and at what price. Contracts are being disputed. IOUs are worthless. Banks refuse to honor letters of credit. The entire financial system of London is seizing up. Let's talk about the people who lost everything. William Chetwynd, Member of Parliament, invested his entire fortune at the peak. By September, he's bankrupt. He writes to a friend, "I'm utterly ruined. My estate is gone. My family is destitute." Lady Catherine Powys, a wealthy widow, invested $40,000, her entire inheritance. By October, it's worth $4,000. She lives the rest of her life in poverty. Reverend Mr. Welton, a country parson, invested his church's endowment fund in South Sea stock. The fund loses $500. Welton, consumed by guilt and shame, takes his own life. He leaves a note, "I could not bear the disgrace." And then there's Sir Isaac Newton. Newton, who sold early and made a profit, couldn't resist buying back in at $800 per share. By September, his investment is worth less than $200. He loses $20,000, roughly $3 million in today's money. Newton never speaks about the South Sea bubble again. When asked about it years later, he becomes visibly angry and changes the subject. The greatest scientific mind of the age, the man who discovered gravity, invented calculus, and explained the motion of planets, was destroyed by a stock bubble. The collapse of South Sea stock triggers a bank run. The Swordblade Bank, the bank that financed most of the South Sea Company as stock purchases, is mobbed by depositors demanding their money. The bank doesn't have it. Why? Because the bank lent out massive sums to people buying South Sea stock on margin. When the stock collapsed, those loans became worthless. The borrowers can't repay. The bank has no liquidity. On September 24th, the Swordblade Bank closes its doors. Thousands of depositors lose everything. This triggers a credit crisis across London. Banks stop lending. Merchants can't get credit to buy inventory. Trade grinds to a halt. The South Sea bubble isn't just a stock market crash. It's a financial system collapse. Britain is in chaos. The newspapers, which spent months praising the South Sea Company, now turn on it with fury. Political cartoons depict South Sea directors as devils. Pamphlets call them thieves and traitors. Crowds gather outside Exchange Alley demanding justice. Some threaten violence. On the streets, people whisper about lynching the directors. Parliament is terrified, not just because of public anger, but because members of Parliament are implicated. Remember the bribes from February? The stock gifts? The insider deals? MPs who voted to approve the South Sea scheme were paid off with stock, and now the public knows. The government is facing a legitimacy crisis. If the truth comes out, if the full extent of the corruption is revealed, the government might collapse. Parliament needs to act. The public is demanding punishment, arrests, executions. But here's the problem. If Parliament prosecutes everyone who was involved, half the government would go to prison. So they make a choice. They pick scapegoats. John Aislabie, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, is arrested. He's expelled from Parliament and imprisoned in the Tower of London. John Blunt and several other South Sea Company directors are arrested. Their estates are seized. Their personal wealth is confiscated to repay victims. But notice who isn't arrested. King George III, who profited from the scheme. The Duchess of Kendal and the Countess of Darlington. The King's mistresses who received stock. Most members of Parliament who accepted bribes. The powerful protect themselves. The lower-level conspirators take the fall. This is the pattern of every financial scandal in history. Parliament passes the South Sea Sufferers Act. The law is officially designed to compensate victims. In reality, it's designed to bury the evidence. Here's how it works. The government seizes the personal estates of the directors, their homes, land, wealth. This money is used to partially compensate investors who lost money. But in exchange, the investigation ends. No more questions, no more trials. The matter is closed. It's a deal. The directors lose their wealth, but they avoid execution. The government saves face. The public gets token compensation. And the full truth, the extent of the corruption, the names of everyone involved is buried. Some records are sealed for 100 years. Others are destroyed. To this day, historians believe the full story of the South Sea bubble has never been told. Amid the chaos, one man emerges as Britain's savior, Robert Walpole. Walpole is a member of Parliament who opposed the South Sea scheme from the beginning. He warned it was too good to be true. He voted against it. Now, in 1721, with the government in crisis, Walpole is called upon to fix the mess. He devises a plan. The Bank of England will absorb some of the South Sea Company's debt. The government will guarantee partial repayment to investors, and strict regulations will be placed on stock trading. It's not perfect. Many investors still lose money, but it stabilizes the financial system. In April 1721, Robert Walpole is appointed First Lord of the Treasury and Chancellor of the Exchequer, effectively Britain's first Prime Minister. He will hold that position for the next 21 years, becoming the longest-serving Prime Minister in British history. The South Sea Bubble nearly destroyed Britain, but it also created the modern British government. Here's the question that Parliament never fully answered. Why did people believe? The South Sea Company had no ships, no trade, no profit, no revenue. The company East only monopoly was to send one ship per year to South America, and even that barely made money. Yet in June 1720, the company was valued at over 200 million more than the entire gold reserves of Britain, France, and Spain combined. How? The answer is simple and terrifying. Because everyone else believed. People didn't invest in the South Sea Company because of its fundamentals. They invested because the price was rising. They saw their neighbors getting rich. They heard stories of servants buying estates. They watched aristocrats double their money in weeks. And they thought, if I don't get in now, I'll miss out. This is called FOMO, fear of missing out. It's the psychology that drives every bubble in history. Not greed, not stupidity, fear of being left behind. The South Sea Bubble wasn't the first speculative mania, and it wasn't the last. Just 13 years earlier, in 1637, the Dutch experienced tulip mania, the world's first recorded financial bubble. 80 years later, in 1797, Britain experienced a canal mania, speculation in canal company stocks. In 1929, the Wall Street crash. In 2000, the dot-com bubble. In 2008, the housing crisis. Every single bubble follows the same pattern. Stage 1, innovation. Something new enters the market. Early investors make money. Stage 2, awareness. Word spreads. More people invest. Prices rise steadily. Stage 3, mania. Logic is abandoned. People mortgage homes to invest. Prices go parabolic. Stage 4, collapse. The market runs out of buyers. Prices crash. Fortunes vanish. The South Sea Bubble established this pattern. And we've been repeating it for 300 years. After the South Sea Bubble, Britain passed regulations, stricter rules for stock trading, oversight for companies. But here's the truth. Regulations don't stop bubbles, because bubbles aren't caused by a lack of regulation. They're caused by human psychology, the belief that this time is different. In 1720, people believed the South Sea Company was backed by the government, so it couldn't fail. In 1929, people believed the stock market had reached a permanently high plateau. In 2000, people believed the internet had created a new economy where old rules didn't apply. In 2008, people believed housing prices would never fall. Every time, the belief is the same. The rules don't apply to us. This time is different. And every time, it ends the same way. If you were in London in June 1720, watching South Sea stock hit 150, everyone around you would be telling you to buy. Your friends, your family, your servants, the newspapers, members of parliament. Everyone would say, this is the opportunity of a lifetime. Don't miss out. And if you said, but the company has no profits, they would call you a fool. The exact same thing happens today. When an asset is in a bubble, the people who warn against it are mocked, called too cautious, stuck in the past, not understanding the new paradigm. Until the bubble bursts. And then everyone says, why didn't someone warn us? Someone always warns. Nobody listens. Here's the final question. If you were in London in 1720, would you have bought South Sea stock? You want to say no. You want to believe you'd see through the hype. But remember, the Chancellor of the Exchequer bought. Members of Parliament bought. The King bought. Isaac Newton bought. The smartest, most powerful people in Britain all bought. Because when everyone around you is getting rich and you're not, the pressure to join is overwhelming. That's the real danger of bubbles. It's not that people are stupid, it's that people are human. The South Sea Bubble destroyed fortunes in 1720. But it also created something lasting. A warning. For 300 years, economists, historians, and investors have studied the South Sea Bubble. They've written books, published papers, taught university courses. Everyone agrees this must never happen again. And yet it happens again, and again, and again, because the lesson of the South Sea Bubble isn't about economics, it's about human nature. We want to believe in easy wealth. We want to believe this time is different. And we want to believe we want to be the ones left holding worthless paper when the music stops. But someone always is. In 1720, it was the investors of the South Sea Company. In 1929, it was the investors of Wall Street. In 2008, it was the buyers of subprime mortgages. And the next time, but because there will be a next time, it will be someone else. The only question is, will it be you?